Hello. Today I'm joined with Mike Savas from, I guess, month in the making. But Mike, you have so many different projects and working on so many things. Thanks for joining in. How are you, man?
I'm fantastic. Couldn't be more pumped to be here. I poured a fresh espresso just to mark the occasion.
Nice. And speaking of espresso, I think you're actually currently in Italy, you lucky bastard.
Yeah, yeah. You can't tell by the walls. Believe it or not, this is a ninth century. So from the year 900, this is an old military fort that's been reclaimed and rebuilt to be a beautiful villa.
Oh, cool. So kind of like a Paradores in like Spain, those like old castles that have been repurposed as hotels, kind of simple, something similar.
I don't know what a paradorus is, but it sounds fantastic and probably something like that.
How was quick follow up question on this Italy thing? What was it like with the? Did you hear the celebrations with the
Oh,
Euro?
so we flew in four on that day because we knew they were going to be in the finals.
Okay,
So we watched it. We watched it the first half in town, second half in a field, a soccer field with a bunch of kids. As soon as they won, the fireworks. And when I say fireworks, what I actually mean is bombs. They set off. These are not. They don't sparkle. They have no effect. They just blow up. So we heard the bombs bursting. So we hopped in the car, went to the city center. I mean, it was kicking off. Screams, cheers. It went till 4 in the morning. Every car that drove through the city center, they would stop, summon, surround, and then shake, 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 shake. Let them go. Next one. Meanwhile, there's bombs going off. The smoke flags. It was epic.
nice, it's nice.
Yeah.
So like war zone, but celebration.
Yeah, yeah. Celebratory war zone. Exactly.
Okay. Um, I know, like you, we've had a conversation about this before, but you've traveled a lot. Going back to sort of you growing up, your childhood. Was there something in your during your childhood or teenage years that sparked your interest for travel or for experiences? When did that sort of become to be?
Yes. So no question, the defining point in my life was a program called Semester at Sea, which is a sailing university that travels around the world. I was part of this study abroad program in the year 2003. So over 106 days, we went to 11 different countries with 600 other college students. When you were in country, they give you your passport. They say, come back alive and don't leave the country. That's about it. And then when you're on board, you have classes, you get access to political figures, and that set me up. That pretty much anyone that does this program goes on to lead an inspired or purposeful or alternative lifestyle to some degree or another. So it opens you up to a community of people. More importantly, opens up you up to this global perspective that is truly unmatched, and that's what started it all.
Cool, very cool. And this was early 2000s. Is that what you said?
2003.
2003. Okay. And so I think afterwards, correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of sort of started working in the events industry. How did you get into that? And what was it like during those years when you were working there?
Yeah, man. So I always wanted to be in music. It was between music and archaeology. Don't ask me why. Ended up choosing music. Got into the record label side of things. I actually quit, became a certified tour guide, and then music found me again. I ended up being asked to join Bon Jovi World Tour in 2008. Joined his management team, and from 2008 to 2013, I was on tour full time with primarily Bon Jovi, but other acts in between. And I traveled the world implementing what's called like a VIP experience, VIP program, and I used that as a launch pad to fund and provide the means to do my own personal trips. So in between legs of tours, which span the globe, I had a free flight paid for, I had per diem in my pocket, and I would just piggyback off people I had met or the free flights between tours, and I would travel in between, and that sort of set me up for a global network to sustain this lifestyle.
That's cool. That's cool. And you worked with a lot of these artists. I think other ones were Rolling Stones, Cat Stevens. You mentioned Bon Jovi. Can you share like any of your favorite stories from those times, from those tours?
Yeah, I mean, I've so many stories. So, I mean, I've probably worked with about 25, 30 artists at this stage.
Okay.
And it's beautiful stepping in these camps because they truly are traveling circuses, if you will. It's a group of people all stuck together for, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 4 months, maybe a year and a half. And you're living and breathing together on tour buses and hotel rooms, celebrating birthdays and all sorts of events. I mean, the tour that I was most recently on prior to COVID hitting was the Oprah tour in the North America, which was sponsored, or I should say, organized by WW, which was formerly Weight Watchers. And this was an inspirational speaking tour to help people sort of take control of their lives and reframe what their priorities were, what their focus was. There was the 2020 Vision Tour. And this was our second tour with Oprah. And just being out with her is really something else. It's not similar to music tours, obviously because of the content, but the people that she surrounds herself with, the team she has around her, really just puts you on another level of analysis and self-reflection. And I'm just really grateful for any opportunity with her. Of course, there's plenty of rock and roll stories, lap dances by Britney Spears. And well, that was during a dress rehearsal. It was no touching, but it was on stage and it is filmed. Almost made out with a Pussycat doll once, but come on, we don't need to go there.
I think, talking to you and reading about some of the stuff that you've done, experiences are basically something that's very important for you. For people that, you're still like, they don't get the full experience out of a concert or a live music event or just a show. Like what's like, I don't know, in your own words, what's so memorable about a concert or just even a live experience?
Oh, I mean, I think for me, it's simple. Frankly, I don't like going to shows. I don't like going to festivals. I enjoy the human experience at shows.
Okay.
And I find it by producing it and being part of that moment. And I think it's just that sharing of energy. Very few moments in life are there that many people resonating on the same aesthetic frequency. And when you have that, you have brilliance. So to be a part of that is magic. And if you just sit in it and let that settle, that's something special.
That's yeah, I couldn't agree more about the value exchange and the energy. That's spot on about that. I
don't
that's
care
really
if it's EDM, hip hop, Cat Stevens, Oprah. It's that same. Everyone's at that same vibe, and if the artist can build that vibe, that's like a bridge that frankly I don't think anything else can create it.
Cool. I believe you're currently working as well with Ticketek in Australia.
Yes.
How has the recovery been with events down there? Do you have any any information about that?
Sure. I've been with TEG Dainty, which is Ticketek Entertainment Group. Dainty, it's a subdivision of the Ticketek brand, which is, for those guys listening, it's the third biggest entertainment property in the world, live events producer. And we do a lot of the sort of A-level talent down in Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia. And Australia's had some really good success. I mean, we did put Guns N' Roses on sale during COVID in November for an upcoming tour this November, which is exciting. So hopefully we'll have the first stadium tour back. Meanwhile, we've produced a series of arena level events. We had our first one a month and a half ago. Her name is actually Tina Arena, and it went
Nice.
off without a hitch. There were a few days where there were like the spontaneous lockdowns, but we missed them by a day. So it went off perfectly, no issues. She did meet and greets, and it was great. So we have a few more tours this year, some happening in September. Most of it is localized content, but we're hoping that Australia and New Zealand is sort of this bubble where content bounces back stronger than anywhere else. Also working in North America and Europe and the UK, I'm acutely aware of what's happening. And if I had to bet money, it now seems like the US might be the place that has the most robust music and entertainment scene. We'll see.
Yeah. We have partners that have now been holding like small festivals, not like 5,000 people to 10,000 people, and it's been going on great. So hopefully it's a stepping stone to things better. But I'm glad to hear that things down in Australia and New Zealand are doing a little bit better. Thanks for sharing. Cool. Well, you know what? Let's drop sort of the events discussion and really get what I really wanted to ask you and talk about. Month in the making. So first of all, in your own words, what is month in the making?
All right. Month in the making is the personal journey that I'm currently on. It's my lifelong dream, and it's my personal journey to go to 12 different countries over 12 months and learn 12 unique skill sets. So I've always sort of fantasized about what it would be like to lead a different life, and this is my chance to go out and experience those lifestyles in ways that most people, including myself, would never have the opportunity to. So I'm currently on chapter 6 of 12. In Italy, becoming a culinary artisan. And we chose those words specifically because I'm not learning to become just a chef. There's much more to it than that. So I'm about halfway through this little adventure. and it's going phenomenally well. I couldn't be happier. You know, I get to wear a killer like a Tuscan hat and drink espressos at 4 in the afternoon. And as soon as I'm done with you here, I'm gonna go make some pasta for the guests staying here. We picked from the local garden this morning all the vegetables that we'll be cooking, and it's been such a privilege, such a really eye-opening experience.
Right, and we were just talking about this before the show started, but you're also, it's not just about cooking, it's also part of the, learning where the food comes from and the growing and all that stuff. Like, what did you learn with regards to how that food
Yeah.
is actually produced?
So look, I've only been here for 2.5 days now, so we're just getting started.
Okay,
In
okay.
talking to the folks I'll be working with, it's really getting back to when I say the roots, I'm talking about of course, the meals and the vegetables in the garden, but also the history of how food used to be tended to, without pesticides, without any chemicals, without any artificial minerals, and understanding. Using human consciousness, the science behind plants. So the gentleman I'm staying with explained it to me. There's science and there's consciousness, and consciousness is co-science, and that's the part missing from modern day agriculture. So how do we reframe that? How do we rethink that? And more importantly, how do we apply that to mass agriculture at scale to help solve this environmental issue that we have? And some of the ways you do that, and again, I'm just learning out, is by planting certain vegetables with one another, so they're coexisting and protecting them from other insects and infestations. Another way is something called biodynamics, which literally I got to find this morning, and that's using phases of the moon to decide when to plant certain seeds and when to harvest certain plants and vegetables, depending on the moon cycles and the planets around them. So the gravitational pulls that these astrological bodies have on the plants. Just as some people practice astronomy or astrology, similar idea behind plants and vegetables.
Right. Yeah, and we know that they do have a pull on the tides. It's safe to assume that they have a pull on the plants too, and
Exactly.
it's something so basic, and yet we forget about it. Thanks for sharing that.
And he broke it down quite beautifully. He's like, look, he goes, some people call it pseudoscience. He's like, I don't care about any of that. He's like, all I know is that if a master chef comes to Italy and they want the best tasting fruit or vegetables,
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times it's something that was biodynamically harvested. He's like, that's all that
Yeah,
matters.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Now going back to the month in the making, you touched a little bit briefly on it, but where did the sort of, I know it's your lifelong goal and passion that you're finally living, but where did that idea originally come from?
The first moment I have of coming up with it was under a mangrove tree in the Galapagos Islands, believe it or not, with my
Wow.
buddy, and we were philosophizing, pontificating on the purpose of life and what does it mean to be happy and what's this all about. And this has taken many different iterations. At this stage in life, I called it chasing the moment,
Okay.
and I was still very much working in the music business. In fact, I was still on tour with Bon Jovi at the time, so I was truly neck deep in it, and I go, okay, well, what do I want to do? Like, I'm working really hard. I'm finally starting to save money. I guess I want to run a successful business. So what does that mean? Sure, it means, I make $1 million. Cool, great. Would love to make $1 million, but I don't really care about money. So why do I want $1 million? Well, what if I traveled the world and gave away all my money, gave away $1 million, and tried to use that money to understand people's happiness, people's, this inevitable or intangible idea of being in the moment or chasing the moment. Anyway, I didn't make $1 million. Haven't given away $1 million. Let me be honest here. Don't have it to give away. Yet this evolved into different iterations, and then at one point I was fantasizing about, again, traveling the world has always been my thing outside of adventure and the music industry and social impact. So I started fantasizing about, okay, what if I spent a week in every world, and it was called A Week in the World, and then I was like, that's going to take me 7 years. Carry the one, 7.5 years.
Yeah.
Can't sign up for that. What if I did it
No.
for 12 months? I could carve out 1 year. Okay, that's confrontable, but what would that look like? Well, what if it was 1 month in every country? Great. Like, but what would I do for a month? I'm very bad at vacationing. I can't sit on a beach. I need something to do. Wow, like, what about all these different things I've always dreamed about doing? Like, I really want to be a samurai. I think that was the first one. I really want to be a samurai. Okay, I'll go to Japan and be a samurai for a month. And then it just sort of evolved and evolved. I was supposed to do it when I turned 35. I had a big countdown clock on the back of my wall. When I broke up with one of my exes, didn't do it when I turned 35, was supposed to do it when I turned 40. Then COVID hit and my industry shut down. So I said, screw it. I'm going to take this moment and I'm going to live my dream. And I'm going to, everyone else is going indoors. I'm going outdoors, and I'm just going to make the best of it. And it's worked out well.
Nice. Very nice. That's so cool. That's awesome. And how long have you been planning this?
So, thinking of it, somewhere between 12 and 15 years. Planning it, 4 days before I started. I mean, look, this is something. Look, I've been traveling effectively nonstop since 2008.
Yeah.
So I know how much time and energy it takes into properly planning a trip. You could spend a year or 2 years or 5 years planning something at this scale. I choose to let the universe open up opportunities for me as they come, and let intuition guide me. Maybe that's because I have too much going on otherwise and I'm distracted. Maybe it's because that's worked out well for me in the past. I travel with friends that can't travel with me any longer because they need the hotel and the reservation booked. I'm not joking, Philippe, I head to the airport these days. I book a flight in the back of the taxi before I get to the airport, have my COVID test ready. And I'm like, okay, we're going to Italy tomorrow. You can ask Diego, who's been my videographer, photographer for a large chunk of this journey. And I called him the day before I needed him in Costa Rica. And I was like, hey man, you got the job. You want it? Okay, great. Head to the airport tomorrow at 9 p.m. So this is how it's been going down. And it's been working out fine.
So Diego has a similar lifestyle too, or mindset.
No, I've dragged him into this. This is what I do to people. I call it's like how I was taught in the music industry. It's trial by fire. You get pushed into the furnace. You either come out alive or you're burnt to the crisp.
All right. And it's funny that COVID has actually just given you the opportunity to do this. Has it also been a problem in planning certain things?
My old boss used to say there are no problems, only challenges. And challenges, my friend, are opportunities to impress.
Nice.
Love this saying. And truly, that's what COVID has been. It's been a challenge, of course, for all the obvious reasons. Emotionally, physically, mentally, different than other people have struggled with it. But frankly, being away from home, not having my business, which for me was a large part of my identity. It's how I structured my year. It's how I balanced all of my travel, my relationships. It formed who I was. To have that taken away has forced me to reframe how I think of myself, how I project myself to the universe, and sort of what I'm doing here and why I'm doing the things I'm doing. So yes, a challenge, a problem, no.
Great answer. Okay, well let's jump into some of these challenges that you've done already. I think in Costa Rica, I think it was surfing was the challenge.
That's right.
So yeah, go ahead.
We started in Costa Rica, learning how to surf. Flew down there, didn't have an instructor booked. Started asking around, who's the best instructor in town? Everyone said my boy Tommy, aka Tommy Ten Toes.
Okay.
It's also brilliant traveling during COVID because not many people are doing it. So you get accommodation cheaper. You have access to tourist attractions if that's what you want, and facilities in ways that will never otherwise be possible. So I effectively had arguably the best beach in the world to learn on, more or less to myself as a beginner. A few other people were there, but
Nice.
not much. So I spent about 5 weeks in Costa Rica surfing. And then originally intention was to go back to back to back and just jam.
Yeah.
Very quickly, I realized that was not feasible. I needed to rest the body. I needed to reset the mind. So we took about 5 days off, resettled in Miami, cut the videos, flew to Colombia where I learned salsa dancing with this wonderful human named Carol. Carol was one of J-Lo's dancers in the Super Bowl, one
Wow.
of the salsa performers.
Okay.
So she took me under her wing. I performed in a salsa show on the number one stage in Cali, Colombia, which is I don't know if you know Colombia, but Cali salsa is the fastest form of salsa in the world. Very theatrical, very acrobatic. So I made a custom-made costume with glittery sort of, rhinestones, and got on stage. I did the dirty dancing lift and everything. And then we hit Brazil, and we learned capoeira in Brazil for a month on an island off Sao Paulo called Ilha Bela, which capoeira is a beautiful martial art that's a blend between dance and fighting that the slave trade sort of created due to necessity, and now it's created this beautiful art form that people practice all over the world. It's really, really community driven. It's not just the dance or the fight. It's singing, it's playing musical instruments, it's the history. It's really, really deep and fascinating. So that was chapter 3. Then I hit the Bahamas to go free diving. So learning how to dive deep without a scuba tank and hold your breath and, go into the dark depths of the mother ocean, swimming with sharks and whatever else was down there. And then last month, I just got back from Kenya being a conservation ranger. So I got to train with those guys, do some anti-poaching techniques,
Nice.
understand what's happening there from a conservation standpoint and all the issues they're facing, and seeing how I can give back and hopefully be a better human. And now in Italy, becoming a culinary artisan.
Cool. I actually I pulled a clip from the Brazil journey. So if that's okay with you, I'm going to play it,
Please.
just so that people can get sort of a little bit of the feel. So let's just watch.
Nene's teaching me the pendulum today, the pendolo, and that's how you get away from a kick. So I'm ducking and blocking with an arm, but you don't go forward like this. You duck down and under, and then you go back into the Jenga. Again, this is the basic move, the Jenga.
And the pendulum, I go inside because it's here. Okay, no problem. Here's problem. Yeah, I'm inside. Inside, I'm good, secure here. Too much secret for capoeira. No se puede revelar todo. Tiene que tener una carta en la manga. This is one more. You can queixada?
Queixada.
This one. This one.
I'm in a precarious situation.
Menina que é capoeira, menina que sabe jogar. Tua ginga é uma beleza, teu sorriso me faz delirar.
This guy Nene is
That's my boy right there.
Next level cool. How did you find him?
Oh, Master Nene. Yeah, so Master Nene is just a G. He speaks, I think, 4 or 5 languages. He literally owns a sort of Airbnb hostel, if you will, called Casa de Capoeira. Him and his wife are both, well, he's a master, she's an instructor. Both of his kids do it. And he teaches capoeira in his living room, atrium area. I met him via buddy, a sailing buddy who had done capoeira. And he I was like, who do I go to? And he said, talk to Nene. So same with Brazil. I flew in and I actually went to a different region of Brazil, Salvador, and I was with a different instructor who was great, just wasn't, exactly what I was looking for. So 2 days before I was supposed to be with deciding where I was going to start, I pinged Nene. I was like, hey man, I'm coming. See, most of these, they're my masters, right? The masters think I'm full of it and not a real, and they're like, this guy's not going to show up. No one comes for a month, like, sure, he's going to show up with a camera. And then I show up. I'm like, hey, I'm here. They're like, oh, okay, I guess he's legit. So same story with Nene. Showed up, and then we became really good friends over the course of a month.
Yeah, I've watched that clip, the full clip that you and Diego put together, the 20-minute one. And like, this is no just like, hey, here's a couple of moves. This is like, hey, guys, we're going to go for a run up the mountain, and then we're going to do like some moves on top of the hill and stuff. Like, this, and then there's like the paddle thing. That like, this is like, he's training you to be endurance junkie. Were you expecting that when you got in?
I was hoping for it. In fact, I mean, dude's a national rowing champion of Brazil and whatever degree, master in capoeira. So he wakes up at 3:30 or 4:30, goes out for a paddle every morning, comes back, does what he calls 15 minutes of flow, which is like a sort of hit training, like yoga, hit training capoeira. And then he'll teach 1 or 2 or 3 capoeira classes during the day, take me out in the evening. So we were generally doing, at least 1 class a day, if not 2, sometimes 3 classes a day, between flow and capoeira, and sometimes paddling. So it was really intense, and I got pretty shredded by the end of the month. I did, that clip you just saw, that was I think day number 3. So that was very, very beginning. You can see how tight I am, and I don't know any of the names of the moves. It's also learning in a different language. I don't speak Portuguese, so trying to hear these new words and translate them to body movements, and then have your body do what this guy's instructing you. So that's been a bit of a challenge, but awesome. So we ended though in Salvador. It was Nene's. Salvador is the capital of capoeira in the world. It's where it was founded. I think in the 16th century. And Nene's dream was to go to Salvador and do capoeira in the streets. And this was my plan. So I got him a plane ticket. We flew to Salvador together, and then we challenged the local capoeiristas to a battle sequence in the streets where all the tourists were.
Wow, that's so cool. That's so cool. And so you did the planning for this, and you brought him along, and because there's a lot of musician stuff. I guess those were the locals that you got into contact with.
Oh, I mean, where there's capoeira, you have the music, so you don't need to go find those guys. They're just there. Like you don't find capoeira without the music. So these guys in the center of town. I mean, we more or less just rocked up. Like we knew they were going to be in the center of town, and we were like. Nene went up. He's like, "Hey, I'm Master Nene from so and so. My boy here wants to battle with you." We had to pay him a couple bucks. But as soon as they saw the footage the next day and the video edits, they were like, "Come back. We want to make this a proper thing." So then they came back and let us film a whole sequence. They set it up for us in a little part of the town square. But again, a lot of it's off the cuff and either planning that day or a day, maybe 2 in advance.
Mm-hmm. You touched a bit on the subject right now with the one in Brazil and also the one in Colombia, but it's not just that it's a physical challenge. It's also that you're making sure that you immerse yourself as much as possible with the local culture. I mean, you talked about in Colombia how you made your own like salsa like sort of dress and stuff. How important is that culture aspect to these challenges that you're doing? More important
than the skills. Certainly the whole story is framed around this crazy dude learning 12 different skills, but what it really is this crazy dude becoming either 12 different identities or becoming part of 12 different communities, and showing up as someone who knows nothing, trying to be super humble about it all, and showing up ignorantly and asking all these very beginner questions. And the way it's playing out is that the first week is learning the language, learning how these people communicate, learning their lifestyle. So you're very much, and they're sort of gauging you. You're showing up with a camera. I'm a guy from Jersey. I talk fast. I have a lot of energy. They don't know what to make of me. They think they like me, but they're not sure. Week 2, it's the beginning of the skill. You finally know what the words mean. You understand how the pieces come together just barely enough to string together body movements and basic understanding. Week 3, then you can really start develop that skill into whatever it is you're doing, and things start looking a bit better. And then week 4 so far is I've been sort of taking that skill on the road and trying to implement it in the countryside or in the region, and take the community aspect or the skill aspect a bit wider to see how good I've gotten. So with that said, completely immersing myself in the culture has been more rewarding, and given me way more insights on humanity and sort of on a meta level, like the dysfunctions that we have in the West and what they're doing right in some of what we consider as Americans, maybe second or third world countries. And it's really opened my eyes to how I want the next 40, 50 years of my life to look, not because of the skills, because of the communities and people that I'm being exposed to.
And so we talked about the physical aspect, we talked about the cultural aspect. What about the I'm about to shit my pants aspect? Was there any wipeouts when you were surfing in Costa Rica? What about like deep sea diving in the Bahamas? Like, were you worried at any point? Were you scared?
You're going to laugh. You're not going to believe me. The most scared I've been is right now having to go into the kitchen. I'm not kidding. I am a terrible cook. I know. I got into touring because they provide free meals, not because the money or the rock stars, none of that. There's free meals 3 times a day. So the idea of like having to go prepare food, me in a supermarket is like someone about to go skydiving. Like I get blank, can't string a thought together. I get tired. It's terrible. So with that said, this is terrifying. One, I did surfing. Yes, I injured my rib cage. I came down the back of a huge wave one day and smacked my rib. Ended up surfing for another week or so before. Eventually, it was too painful, and I had to tap myself out for the last couple of days. In capoeira, my buddy had said to me, I have a friend who he's like, you can't learn anything in a month. He's like, the only way I'll respect you is if you can do a standing backflip by the end of the capoeira month. So behind all of these capoeira scenes, I'm trying to learn the standing backflip. And on my second to last day, we're on the beach and I'm about to do it for like the first time completely, where I just gotten to the point where I can nail it. And I go up on my final like test run and I pull my back. Like you feel not like a disc slipped, but something sort of pulled. No. And I was like, and this is before all the final battle sequences that you watched and acknowledged. So if you watch the final scene, all the final kicks, I literally have a serious back injury for that. Not many injuries in doing salsa, and then free diving. Training your lung capacity is just a terrifying thing by nature, and trying to hold your breath beyond what your mind thinks it can do. Yet once you go beyond that threshold, it's very strange. Have you ever free dove?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So this concept of like your body can physically hold enough oxygen for, most people for at least 4 minutes. It's just that we think we can't. So once you force it beyond that point, it actually gets calm again and you go into this meditative state almost naturally. So things are okay beyond that point and your body can handle it, just mentally it can't. So there's been a ton of moments like that where you think you're going to die. In Kenya, I was staying on a conservation site. So we would go for runs every day where we'd have to look out for elephants and not so much hyena, but roaming, a wild buffalo, sometimes leopard. So one guy would run with a gun or a spear or a sword. And then we'd have a Jeep in front of us that would stop us if there were any elephants. We'd get in the Jeep and keep going. So yes, danger was all around us, I'd say, for most of these months. But the only thing I'm fearful of is going into that kitchen and making pasta in 20 minutes.
All right. Fair enough. How has been the support from your friends and family during this time? Like, have you felt like you got, despite the fact that you're at the other side of the world, you're doing this 24/7, do you feel like you've connected with them a little bit more during this time?
I love this question, man. I really do. Because starting for me with the lifelong dream and setting out on an epic journey, epic personal journey, is scary. There's a lot of weird and emotional swings that place, and I reflect back to. Do I still have you there? Check. I'm just going to keep going, but you've paused on my end. I reflect back to when it all started, and I had a lot of trepidation. Am I there, Philippe? Did I lose you for a second?
Yeah, you did, but we're back on now. So yes, I'm here.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
back.
So thinking back to when this all started, there was a lot of sort of anxiety and weird fear, like not fear about being injured, but just fear of, I guess, putting myself out there. Not that I even cared what other people thought. Yet I think being accountable to myself and actually doing something that I knew was going to take a lot of time, a lot of energy, and I was pushing all my other priorities to the side. So that was a hard pill to swallow. Once I announced it and I felt this outpour of love, it really put my mind at ease. And my best friends and my dearest family, were always supportive from the beginning. And I've relied on them. There's some people I talk to 2 or 3 times a day, because that's what keeps me grounded. And what I've realized, again, I wanted to go out like back to back to back, is that I really, and I'm not someone that needs to go home and replenish. This trip has made me need to go home and replenish and be with family. And maybe it's mixed in with the whole COVID thing and acknowledging what's really important, and wanting to be there throughout. So yes, my family's been a rock. My best friends have been a rock. And your sort of ego goes through all sorts of different waves with something like this, because I'm not a YouTuber, I'm not an influencer. I've always gotten around globally, but being a guy on a podcast now makes you think of yourself differently, or it doesn't, and you're just reflecting constantly about who you are, who you want to be, how you're being perceived. Do you care if you're being perceived the right way? And it's this constant sort of not conflict, but emotional sort of analysis of what you're doing and why you're doing it.
And talking about that, like, do you sometimes feel like you have a reverse culture shock when you get back from being in Brazil for 4 or 5 weeks, and then you come back to, I don't know, New Jersey or California? How does that feel?
Completely, brother. So again, having traveled so much, I kind of muted myself to that over the years, and it didn't affect me all that much. This trip has been different for me. And I think it's because it's unlocking some realizations which I haven't had before. And this is a theory that I'm working on, sort of my grand hypothesis so far, a month in the making.
Okay.
And bear with me because it's still in development. but
That's okay. Thanks for sharing, man.
what I've seen in all of these countries so far
Yeah.
is these micro communities and what I consider tribes of people who have a common set of beliefs or goals or purposes that are providing for one another, and they're depending on one another. And anytime I come across these groups, and not even necessarily one person, but from a group dynamic, they're existing and surviving more happily together if you compare it to Western societies. And for me, thinking back towards history and the millennia of what we consider like modern human civilizations, we lived in groups, we lived in tribes, and that's what made life possible. Now in the West, really what we've been programmed to do is make money, buy a home, build your own castle, become your own king or queen, if you will, for the most part. And I think that leads generally to a very unhappy and disconnected life. And people know this. It's not like anything I'm saying is profound. Everyone knows they want human connection, yet we're setting up infrastructure in a way that does not provide for human connection. Whereas in these other countries, they're not doing that. Whether it's because they don't have the means and the money to go out and buy their own homes, they're still living with I'm not really analyzing that side of it. I'm just stating a fact. If you have family and friends around you and you all have common interests and common goals, you are happier. So, and when I go back to the US and I see these dysfunctions and I see this unhappiness, I can't help but feel a little bit sad for my people and my groups who are there and sort of stuck in it. And can't find a way out, and frankly for me a little bit too, because that's part of my world as well. So I just so much want humanity to live this sort of small tribal village life again with modern day amenities and technology, but somehow combining the two aspects.
Right. And thank you so much for sharing that social, that community aspect you've noticed is very strong in some of these places. That's great. And I feel like some of the problems we are seeing in certain Western countries is that there is no more of these communities. Religion used to fill that void, and now it's not. It's no longer filling that void as much anymore. Can you talk a little bit about the sort of social impact that these challenges have had with you going in these communities and sort of experiencing, acknowledging it, and then sort of also putting an eye on them, I guess?
Yeah, man. So I'm glad you asked that question, because clearly what I'm doing is can be perceived as a selfish mission, and for many to many degrees it is. Yet I'm very present to that fact, and I'm trying to give back and be as intentional and purposeful as I can be in these communities and cultures, and also show up with gratitude and honesty and all those sorts of things that you'd want someone who's trying to learn and expose themselves to these environments. So with that said, one of the things I'm trying to integrate is some element of social impact into each of the months, and it's had different versions throughout. Some have been more impactful, some have just been lightly impactful, but I'm constantly trying to find an organization or a person or a business that's doing something locally that's contributing positively to the local society. And whether it's giving them monetary donations, like fundraisers that I'm running, or just highlighting them on a YouTube episode, or learning from them and trying to share that as best as I can, I think it's really important to try to layer that into this mission, and I think people's lifestyles in general. It's something that I'm super passionate about from my business, which is still very much in the music and entertainment space. I'm trying to get all of the artists I work with to acknowledge and fundraise for social impact campaigns that they are passionate about while on tour, and be the integral piece between the charity or the humanitarian cause and the artist, and connect those dots. So I'm doing it on a professional and entrepreneurial level, but then simultaneously trying to do it in my personal life as much as I can, where I can, and really hoping to inspire others to do the same to whatever degree that they can and what that means for them.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that, man. You once told me in a conversation that when you were 10 years old, your dream was to become a ninja. Are you anywhere close to realizing that dream, you think?
Close? Absolutely not. Am I gonna get a really cool black jumpsuit with a sword? Absolutely. No. I'm probably most looking forward to my Southeast Asia run of this month in the making, which will be the final 2 or 3 or 4 months. On the agenda, which again, the agenda, if nothing else, is subject to change, will be samurai in Japan, some sort of monk in Tibet or Bhutan or China, whether it's a Shaolin monk or Tibetan monk, I'm not sure. And then I want to go to Mongolia and become a nomadic eagle hunter. So there's and then there's India, Sri Lanka doing yoga potentially. So between the capoeira, the salsa dancing, and the samurai month, and maybe the monk month, hopefully those skills somehow overlap, and I can look like a ninja for a day and save a princess with a sword.
What do you plan? So you talked about the next challenges. When this whole the 12 challenges are all done, what do you plan on doing next?
Well, look, from a business side, I very much expect the music industry to bounce back strong, and my business will be hopefully more impactful and larger than ever. With that said, Month in the Making has really changed my viewpoint on a lot of things. So I never did Month in the Making for it to be a business, yet I am very business oriented, and my brain probably has 6 ideas a day. So I knew I would come up with concepts along the way. Right now, what it looks like is a platform where people who want to learn a skill can find a master of that skill. So picture like in-person masterclass for 2 weeks or a month. So month-long learning adventures in person around the world, whatever skill you want to learn. Whether that's individuals, or I'm hosting group trips where I take people to a month in Italy, and for every week a different chef comes that teaches them some form of cuisine or some aspect to the culinary arts. I think that would be really interesting from a co-working, co-living, co-learning experience. So this gets me excited, and I think a blend between a Month in the Making type business and my concert business, wherever that balance lies, will hold the next 5 to 10 years for me.
Cool. Very cool. And, I have a couple of final questions, but what advice could you give to people who've thought about doing, like, pushing themselves, not only in just doing a challenge, like, surfing a 10-foot wave, but, doing that, but also immersing, like, themselves completely in another culture, but they've kind of, like, failed to take that first step, or they're afraid. Do you have any sort of advice you could give?
I would find one person that believes in you, one person that's going to give you positive support, because it's hard to do on your own. You need to have built. You don't need to have. For me, resilience is something that it's kind of like a muscle. You build it up, so I can just show up and know it's going to be fine. For someone that's never jumped before, whether that be professionally or romantically or whatever, that's really scary. So I'd say have one person in your corner who's really supporting you and encouraging you. From there, I would say just start. And when I say just start, it's kind of like, you've heard it 1,000 different times, 1,000 different ways. If you're on the diving board, as soon as you jump off, your body kind of figures out how you might fall in on your back, but you're probably going to be fine. So when I say just start, maybe it means book the ticket. Maybe it means book the hotel. You don't need to have it all planned. You just show up and you work with what you got. Some of these months have not gone perfectly well. There's been injuries. There's been changes of plans. I haven't gotten as many dives in, as I would have liked in the Bahamas, things like this. But you just show up as a human and you do your best. And don't lower your expectation, and your experience will be better. It's a key to success and happiness. Just have lower expectations across the board. And I think, not to say you shouldn't hold yourself to higher degrees of happiness and fulfillment and challenges. Yet if you kind of say, okay, I'm going to do this amazing thing, but I'm not expecting anything from it other than to show up and do my best, you're setting yourself up for a win.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I have one more last question. If people want to get in touch with you to discuss partnerships or just even some of these challenges, what's the best way they can reach you?
I'm easy, man. Anything. Email, Instagram, YouTube. I'm at Savas on the go across most of those social channels. My email is just my name, mike.savas@gmail. And, you know, I'm pretty good at communicating if I'm not stuck in the kitchen making pasta.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod, Mike. I want to wish you good luck with becoming doing the most scary of all challenges, and that is in the kitchen in Italy.
Yes.
I'm sure you're gonna do great, man. I'm sure it's gonna be fantastic. Okay, sounds good. Well, thanks again for stopping by, and I look personally forward to.
I gotta show you a view of the Tuscan Hills, buddy. Let me show you.
Oh wow, look at that.
So this is the villa here, and there's the rolling hills of Tuscany just behind me.
Oh my God.
Not bad, huh?
Not bad at all. Not bad at all.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone doing it. Take care.
Thank you so much, Mike. Take care.